Some of the most regulated airspace on Earth raises very big questions as to how something like this could have happened. And remember, this spot was 4 kilometers from the White House. So here are some of the biggest questions we're asking at this time. Could the airliner that was coming in for landing, could it have somehow turned away? Question number 2, don't these aircraft, both the passenger jet as well as the helicopter, don't they have collision avoidance sensors that would have warned each aircraft about the proximity of the other? Number 3, did the Army Black Hawk helicopter pilots somehow get disoriented because there was audio to suggest that they were aware that there was an aircraft coming towards them? Number 4, did ground control, ATC, fail to ensure adequate separation before the aircraft before it was too late? Number 5, how could a collision happen in some of the most regulated airspace on the planet? This is the tri-state area, like I said, just 4 kilometers from the White House, a VIP area, many military and government establishments there. It is a hugely congested airspace in near Washington, D.C. How could something have gone so badly wrong? Let's try and understand it. And remember, clarity will only finally come once that crash investigation brings out its results. But we can get an expert view on what may have happened, because this is a story that is truly shocking. These were passengers like us in an aircraft making the most routine flights, domestic flight in the United States, landing in Washington, late in the night when this crash actually took place. The people on the plane would have been, switching their mobile phones on, getting ready to meet their loved ones at the airport and go home for a quick night of sleep. And then that aircraft simply crashes into a helicopter right when the runway was visible. Absolute nightmare. So what could have happened? I'm joined now by a panel of veteran pilots and aviation experts to throw some light on this terrible, terrible story. Squadron Leader Debolina Das is a pilot and aviation specialist. Wing Commander Anil Goyal is a pilot and aviation specialist. Wing Commander Vikram Mahajan is a former military helicopter pilot, presently flying commercially. He's also qualified on commercial airplanes. Welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for being with me. Squadron Leader Debolina, I'd like to start it off with you. Your opening thoughts on what may have happened. Only a handful of videos are currently available, capturing this collision, which will, of course, be useful to the investigation, because any visual evidence, is going to be useful. But in your view, what do you think may have happened?
Good evening, Shiv. First, to start with, it's an extremely horrific and shocking circumstances and affair which has happened, because in the kind of situation that we are in today with respect to aviation, we are highly advanced. And something like this so close to the ground when an aircraft is coming on approach is something which we can never think of. Maybe it is one of a thousands or one of a million of an accident which can happen like this. So the first thing that comes into my mind is that, considering that this was an aircraft, the Bombardier CRJ 700.
Yes.
It's a highly equipped aircraft. It has all its terrain awareness and caution warning systems available on board. So I'm sure that all of it was in place, and when it was cleared for an approach, and that is where it crashed with an helicopter, which is a military helicopter, the Black Hawk, who again has a lot of ability for a lot of kind of roles, stealth role and many other role. One predominant being the stealth role, where it basically goes under cover, not to be understood and visible by anybody. So giving my experience, though nothing has come out as of now, I feel that maybe the military aircraft was under some kind of an exercise or operation where it had to hide its existence. And that is why it was so close to that approach, and in a condition where the other aircraft, the Bombardier aircraft, couldn't recognize it being so close to its path. So this was something that might be an operational based situation. But then what the biggest question is, what was the air traffic controller doing? Because this is a place which is to be heavily guided and under radar and controlled by the ground. In air, you can understand, as pilots, we generally say that pilot error, but pilots are heavily tasked. Correct. And we are in a 3D circumstances where anything at any time can go wrong. But somebody sitting on the ground, allowing two aircrafts to be so close on the approach near a city
Correct.
that is the capital of the continent, and being in this situation is extremely unacceptable, and this has to be probably investigated in a great depth,
And
and
that
both to.
investigation has begun. In fact, the search and rescue operations are still on. Fears are that there are no survivors because the wreckage of both these aircraft fell into the freezing river. Wing Commander Mahajan, your view on this, this aircraft, this passenger jet was about to land. From the video, you can tell it's very, very low. It's probably on final approach when this collision takes place. There is some speculation that the military helicopter, the Black Hawk, may have been flying dark with its sensors switched off. Can you clarify this for us from the perspective of both the pilots? What may have happened?
Shiv, it's extremely difficult to really, put a finger on what could really have gone wrong. There could be multitude of factors. Firstly, it's difficult for me to understand as to how an aircraft in terminal area could be operating either without any ADC clearance or without any sensors. By sensors, I mean the TCAS or the traffic collision avoidance system. Having said that, let us understand that the Reagan National Airport is a very, very complex environment with military and commercial operations going on side by side. And when there is a complex environment, room for error always exists.
Yes.
This is definitely an error has happened, for we've lost a large number of lives for reasons that are going to be found out by the investigation team as and when it emerges. At this point in time, I would rather not speculate. There could be an error from the air traffic control. There could be error from the pilot's point of view. There could be a system error in that the TCAS wasn't working, or the pilots have not reacted.
Just one clarification, Wing Commander Mahajan, just one small clarification, because some people have been mentioning this, but I want to get an expert view. Is there anything like the TCAS, the traffic collision avoidance system? Does it stop working at a certain altitude? Does it sort of switch off during landing or anything like that? Or it would have been active at this point as well?
No. If it has not been switched off, it remains active all the while, to the extent that it's even working after landing. It helps the air traffic control to know even your position on the ground.
Yeah.
It works through the transponder on the aircraft. And the two transponders of the two aircrafts, they communicate with each other and let you know the relative position of the two aircraft. And they give you traffic advisories, and in circumstances where the aircrafts are about to collide, you get resolution advisories in which each aircraft gets a distinct instruction to follow, which could be a climb instruction or a descent instruction.
Yeah.
So in this case, that does not appear to be the case because the CRJ appears to be on a stable approach onto the Reagan National Airport, and it appears that the other aircraft, the helicopter, has probably gone into it. So let's not speculate. Let's wait for the investigation team to come out.
We are not in the business of assigning blame or speculating. We only want to throw light on the questions that the public has at this point of time, because this is a story that involves us all. Any of us could have been taking that flight. Wing Commander Goyal, as a pilot yourself, what do you think may have happened? We can all agree that the possibilities are there. There could have been a miscommunication. There could have been a delay to respond to a command. There may have been, disorientation. There may have been a sudden drop in situational awareness because it was night, etc. But the reason why it's troubling is because it was a routine airliner that was landing. Hundreds of thousands of such flights land every night at that time. And this was a military helicopter flying in some of the most regulated, some of the most guided airspace on Earth. And therefore, people are wondering, how could something have happened with such strict, protocols, etc.? What is your take on that, sir?
Sir, as far as the US airspace is concerned, it is considered to be one of the most advanced airspace. And the US takes a lot of pride in maintaining their supremacy as far as the aerospace technology and infrastructure is concerned. The Federal Aviation Administration is one organization to which the whole world looks for guidance as far as the aviation is concerned. So when this kind of accident, when it happens in US, actually it raises eyebrow all over the world.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot of things have gone wrong over there. Maybe the aircraft was not at the correct position, or the controllers were not knowing the exact position of the aircraft, or the pilots were not there where they were supposed to be. So there are got to be a lot of multiple reasons for it. Apart from these mistakes, there could be some technical errors also could have been there, like the ground radar could also not have been working properly, or the aircraft the aircraft has a avoidance system, maybe it was not working properly, or the ADSB system, which gives the position of the other aircraft to the all the aircrafts around it. Maybe that was also not working, or there could be have been some GPS spoofing going on. So there could be a number of reasons which could be present at that time.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate accident which has happened there. And just to add one more point, most of this mid-air happen when the visibility is good and when people get complacent. So obviously when the visibility is good, complacency does set in.
Yeah.
But all the technology available, these kind of accidents are not acceptable and not accepted.
I completely agree. I completely agree with you when you say that if a collision of this kind could happen in a place which has the most advanced technology to ensure separation and safety of aircraft, then God help the rest of the world. Squadron Leader Debolina, I want to bring you in on one more fact. Donald Trump, the new president of the United States, he has his own brand of jumping to conclusions about things. He's put out a social media post saying, why didn't the Black Hawk helicopter pilot turn? There are many people on social media. Obviously, people who are not pilots can easily say these things. Why didn't the airline pilot see the helicopter in front of him? Why didn't the helicopter pilot see the aircraft approaching? Obviously, it's not that easy. You don't need to be a pilot to know that it's never that simple. But from a pilot's perspective, can you explain that to those wondering, didn't you guys see each other? Couldn't you turn in time? Aren't those margins very, very small?
So, giving all respect to the president, I do not want to comment on what he commented, but what I would understand is at this area of the aircraft, which is on approach or in and around an airport or an airbase, the traffic is too much. So there are departures and there are arrivals and there are other aircrafts in and around. So when the time is less and the height and the space between the aircrafts are less, it is very difficult for a pilot to carry out a escape maneuver. Because you might want to escape from one, which will lead you to cross into or get into another aircraft.
Very tight flight paths, yeah.
Yeah, which is in the vicinity because it is the terminal area, because there are a lot of aircrafts which are coming in and taking off from this area. So at this point, and the pilot trying an escape maneuver is risky. Saying that, we do not know what is the reason. Still we are not sure. Anything could have been possible to avoid this situation. Something could have come up, but the only constraint for a pilot to take a maneuver at this area, at a highly guided, highly traffic area, is the chance of getting hit or crashing into another aircraft.
Okay, interesting. I also want to reiterate at this point, just in case anybody is getting the feeling that mid-air collisions happen all the time, they do not. They are exceedingly rare, as Squadron Leader Debolina said. They happen very, very rarely. There was one mid-air collision that happened in 2024, and that itself was one too many. In fact, we've got some data of the worst mid-air collisions that have taken place in the world, which we'll put on our screen. And not many people may know or remember that the worst mid-air collision disaster actually happened here in India in 1996. It was the Charki Dadri crash over Haryana. It was a Saudi airline aircraft and a Kazakh Airlines IL-76 that collided. Over 300 people were killed in that disaster, and it remains the worst mid-air collision in history. Then you've got the two Tupolevs that collided in the Ukraine in 1979. Nearly 200 people were lost in that. 176 were lost in Zagreb in Croatia, in 1976. So we've got all this data. Mid-air collisions have happened. There have been some terrible ones, involving airliners, and this will also go down. What has happened today in Washington, in the Washington area, will go down as one of the worst, because 19 people are confirmed dead. A total of 67 were out there, on both those aircraft, and it's very likely that, none of them will be found alive because, like I said, both these aircraft, crashed into the Potomac River. But Wing Commander Mahajan, as the investigation now progresses, public anxiety will be there. There will be questions from the public as to how something like this could have happened despite technology. How would you address that question? We are moving into a paradigm where such functions will, I imagine, move towards AI and artificial intelligence, where split-second decision-making will be faster through a machine than through actual human ground controllers. But people who fly every day, who take passenger planes every day, will be wondering, how do I win faith back? And, they will not be persuaded by it happens very rarely.
So my take on the subject is that, whenever there is a technology evolving, it always has to be treated with care. One always has to be, you always have to be ahead of the technology as the pilot in the cockpit, as the controller on the ground. Because one must understand that after all, it's a machine. And a machine can fail, and we always have backup plans. Should the machine fail, then the procedure to be followed. It remains to be seen whether it was actually the technology failing here, or it was the human element which led to this failure.
Yeah.
We should wait for the investigation to come out on this, please.
Goyal, can you throw some light on the kind of training that happens in India from the military perspective and from the civil perspective for such situations? Because, as with the Washington area, in India as well, there are many areas which are dual-use military-civil airports. There are, lots of military flights that happen in civil areas, etc. What kind of training goes into that kind of thing, and the interfacing between the two sides, etc., sir?
Question is for me?
Yeah, Wing Commander Goyal, go ahead.
Okay, so when there is multiple agencies are flying in an area, like military or commercial aviation, there has to be more coordination and planning needs to be done on the ground. With the more advancement, like we have seen now, UAVs also flying, and helicopter operations increasing. So this various aircrafts are flying with different technology, with different speeds, and with different capabilities. When such an integration takes place, there are chances of more error. There are chances of misunderstanding and not understanding the capability of each other. So that is when these kind of things do happen, that we have to be more cautious. A detailed planning and briefing has to be done after every such kind of mission which is undertaken. So I think we need to be cautious when we integrate such kind of operations in future, because as we go into the future, we'll see more number of UAVs getting airborne.
Correct.
So there the human element will further reduce. So we need to be cautious. All the aviation bodies are taking cognizance of the fact, and they are coming up with new rules and procedures for this. I hope everybody has their fingers crossed and will do their homework properly in this case.
Well, hopefully this will only make aviation better. Technology-wise, like I said, artificial intelligence will become a reality in these functions going forward. And it is still a troubling reminder that, accidents of this kind can still happen no matter how much we've advanced in this technology. Wing Commander Mahajan, Wing Commander Goyal, Squadron Leader Debalina Das, thank you very much for your time and your expertise on this sensitive story. It's important for all of us to understand this without sensationalizing it and without speculating. I completely agree with that. We hope for the best. We pay our condolences to those who've lost loved ones in this tragedy, and we will look at it very closely and update all of our viewers.